All right, y'all, in this video, we're gonna be going over release of the quads and the hip flexors, TFL, into the groin a little bit, and then we'll be going into a couch stretch if you feel like you have the capacity to do so. All right, so we're gonna grab our foam roller, lay it on down, and we're gonna start right above the knee. And I'm gonna be angling side to side for you so you can see, get a better angle. So as far as positioning goes, what I see a lot of people is what they do when they lay on the foam roller is they kind of dump into their low back. They're doing a lot of this. What we're gonna do, switch legs so you can see, is that opposite leg that we're not working is anchoring down into the ground while we work the other quad, right? So mine's usually frogged out to the side. This will help with positioning and how much pressure we're putting into the foam roller, right? So if you want it right below you and you're giving yourself less pressure, or out to the side to kind of dig in a little deeper, whatever works for you, right? So again, positioning the foam roller right above the knee and just kind of manipulating the tissue. So as you can see, I want to make sure I'm in frame for you guys. I'm on the inside of the quad right above the knee. And then I'm just rocking gently up and down and allowing myself to come onto the lateral portion of the quad. Rocking up and down, or planting that foot and waving my heel, if you will, internally, externally rotating my hip side to side, right above the knee, not on the knee, but right above it. Kind of scrubbing back and forth. Trying to keep my spine in good position, readjusting my opposite leg so I can do that. Scrubbing, and then bringing the foam roller up, maybe 1.5 inches, 2 inches. We're not quite in the belly yet, but just moving on up. Coming up and down, scrubbing the heel side to side. Inside, middle, outside. And once we're far enough away from the knee, about 2 inches, 2.5 inches into the second section, we can pause, and only if you feel safe to do so, and flex and extend that knee. Get onto the side, flex, extend, flex, extend, scrub. If you find a really intense spot, you can engage the quad. Quad will come off, pain should subside, and on the exhale, release the quad, get a little deeper, scrub. Just manipulating the tissue, hopefully getting a release. I don't recommend starting on what this tool is called. It's called the Rumble Roller, one of the most intense release tools out there. I recommend starting with a regular basic foam roller. Amazon Basics, $13. It's a good place to start. So I'm coming up even further. You can just roll down. I'm trying to stay in frame for you guys, so I'm coming on up. Again, nothing to it, just kind of rocking back and forth. As I rock back and forth, I'm scrubbing from left to right on the quad. I'm repositioning my hands, repositioning my opposite leg, scrubbing up and down. We're breathing. Like I've mentioned in other videos in the past, if you lose connection with your breath, if you're wincing, if your whole body is tense, you're going too hard, you're going too deep, what can you do in that situation? Like I said, you can reposition that opposite leg to be right underneath you. Come up on your hands. You can get a lighter foam roller. Go see a massage therapist, get it released for you, and then go back on your foam roller and make it a little easier. Scrubbing, scrubbing, scrubbing. Reconnecting with your breath. Moving it up a little bit. If you're staying where you are and you found a good spot, you can flex extend the knee, flex, extend the knee, flex, extend the knee. Good. Coming on towards the IT band. You can see I've kind of come up. I hope you can see that I've come up on the bottom of my foot on the opposite leg, so I'm just kind of tilting the hips to be more perpendicular with the floor. And I'm up on that opposite foot, posting with that opposite hand. I know I'm facing away from the camera, but I feel as though you kind of get the idea. If that feels too difficult for you, obviously don't do it. So for me, I found a really good spot there. Going to flex the quad, and on the exhale, release the quad and allow that tissue to melt around the foam roller. Moving up and down. Bringing the foam roller up a little further. Getting to the top of the quad. It's kind of the pain in the ass about these longer rollers. They're harder to move and manipulate to your liking. I always recommend people get a shorter roller. Really no need for a long roller unless you're trying to release your biceps. That's for another video, another time. Scrubbing, scrubbing, scrubbing. Coming on to a different position on the opposite leg. Going back and forth. Now that we're past the belly of the quad, it should be a little easier. Flex, extend, flex, extend, flex, extend. Angling the roller a little bit as I get higher. Coming up more towards the insertion point, the ASIS, the hip point. Scrubbing, scrubbing, scrubbing. And so now that we're close to the hip point, this is a really good opportunity to, again, post up, rotate, and get into that TFL, which is an internal rotator and one of the major assistants to hip flexion. If you're a runner, this is typically a pretty gnarly muscle to get into. You can see my bottom leg is flexing, extending at the hip to really get in there. Kind of rolling back and forth. I know these aren't the best angles for you to see what I'm doing, but working with what I got. Good. Okay, so that's one side. Let's go ahead and hit the other side. And again, we're starting closer to the kneecap, right above the kneecap. Opposite leg is below me. Just rocking back and forth, and as I rock back and forth, my hip is internally and externally rotating, so I get around the whole kneecap. Not going directly on, but just above. We can also just scrub the tissue like this. You can either go, so this is something I forgot to mention on that leg, is going back and forth, or I guess side to side, with the heel, keeping your toes planted, or there's a slight difference, a fine line between back and forth, arching the heel, and literally scrubbing the tissue side to side. So I'm actually, that's the nice thing about not articulated, but textured foam rollers, like the Rumble roller, is that it helps grab the tissue, and you can just kind of shear back and forth while the roller hangs onto the superficial tissue. It's really nice. So I'm going up about, I don't know, half an inch to an inch and a half, 2 inches. And I'm rocking up and down. While I'm rocking up and down, moving my body to get the inside, middle, outside of the quad. I am waving my heel back and forth, keeping at least my big toe planted on the floor. I'm allowing the foam roller to catch the skin, and I'm scrubbing. Whoo-wee, good Lord. And I'm scrubbing, and I'm scrubbing, and I'm scrubbing. Up and down on that spot I just found. Flexing the quad, exhaling, releasing into deeper release onto that sweet spot. Flexing, extending the knee. And again, if this is too intense for you, I get it. The quads are not easy. Coming up about an inch, inch and a half. Quads are not an easy thing to work on yourself. But they are enormous muscles that carry a lot of stress. They are overlooked. People sleep on the quads all the time. And I believe they're one of the main reasons why we have such low back issues and restriction in the lower body. They're just overlooked constantly. All that said, if this is too intense for you, I'm just showing you different things you can do to your quad muscles, right? You can get off and shake it out and breathe whenever you want. I invite you to stay on for as long as you can. If this motion of waving the heel or scrubbing or flexion and extension of the knee, if any of those are too intense for you right now, that's fine. Just implement whatever movements you can that are right on the edge of you wanting to get off, right? While still being able to connect with your breath, while still being able to not wince and not tighten up the whole body. And with time, if you do this every day, every other day, whatever it is, eventually you're going to be on a rumble roller, flexing and extending the knee without even flinching. And coming on up about an inch, and I've reached the point where I'm coming onto I'm going to rotate here, so I feel like you guys have seen enough of that angle to get the idea. I'm going to show you the other angle. So I'm here, all fours, this is underneath me, whatever it is. And this is what I meant earlier, is you can have the leg frogged out or right underneath you to mitigate the pressure. And as I rotate out, I'm coming onto the top of my foot. The opposite hand is posted. And that's allowing me to get more towards the lateral portion of the quad, the IT band, which we're not obviously trying to release the IT band because you can't. And we're going up and down, side to side. Whew. Flexion, extension, good. Going back down to the knee. Up and down. Getting more towards the ASIS, the hip point. I am dripping sweat. I can't tell if that's because this is so intense or because it's 105 out or both. Coming up to the opposite hand, opposite foot. Scrubbing up and down. Good. And again, to reiterate, I know this is not fun. I think it's fun, but I know for most people, this is not what they would consider to be fun. But it's so worth it. It's kind of like cold plunging. I find foam rolling, releasing techniques, self-administered release techniques, I think it's under the same umbrella as foam rolling. You're putting your body through a really intense sensation where if your nervous system doesn't know any better, it interprets it as pain, it thinks it's in danger, it wants to get off, it wants to run away. But if you stick through it afterwards, it just feels so good. All right, so readjusting to come up on that TFL. So I'm right below the ASIS, the hip point, rotating out to try and get to that TFL muscle. My left one is not bad, but essentially if you wanted to see if you're on it, if you watch my bottom leg, I'm internally rotating and my hips coming off of it. So internal rotation, that muscle's popping off. I know that I'm on it, so I'm going to flex and extend. I'm going to breathe, and I'm going to rotate down while hanging on to, allowing the foam roller to hang on to that tissue. Allow the foam roller to grab the tissue and just kind of rock back and forth. There it is. All right. Cool. Well, All right, that should do it. So as far as how often to do that, 3 to 5 times a week if you're focusing on releasing tension in your hip flexors and your quads. And if you have the bandwidth and the time to do so, always, always, always follow this up with a couch stretch. All right?